Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Marga, where we learn the path to oneness, to enlightenment, to self-actualization or self-realization. As always, let's begin this class with 3 Ohms. Namaste. In today's class, I thought there are so many questions that have piled up from some of them from the Omkar, some of them from the Sankhya. So I thought I'll take time to just summarize that and just kind of finish up what we touched upon in the last 2 classes. And so let's begin with some of these questions. The first question that was, and this is in relation to the 1 minute. This is in relation to the Om chanting. A few questions, so I thought I'd take care of that. The first one was, let me see if that was the first one. Oh, this is the first one, yeah. So is Om chanting good for lungs? Can this help older people? Is it helpful with people with asthma and respiratory issues? Now, for an ordinary lifestyle, now if you're not an athlete, then just as an exercise point of view, Om is excellent. For an athlete who needs a lot more aerobic capacity, and I'm talking only from the physical exercise point of view, because that is the aim of this question. Is it good for lungs? It's definitely good for lungs for everyone in general. If you're leading a general sedentary lifestyle, not too much of running and walking, perhaps no running at all, just walking, depending on age, right? So once perhaps you're 60 plus or 65 plus and you don't go running anymore, you just walk a little bit, it will definitely help. But if you're young children and you're younger in age, or you're athletic in your abilities, and your lifestyle has got a lot of athletic requirements, such as you go jogging and you're perhaps training for long distance running and so on, or competitive sports, then this is a small supplement to the other exercise routines, which is a must, like skipping, running, all of that. I'm talking only from the aerobic point of view. From aerobics point of view, we need to develop the lungs for those kind of lifestyle requirements. But in general, this Om chanting alone is a very powerful way to expand the capacity of the lungs. But see, more importantly, again, just from the cleansing point of view, from the aerobic sense, what happens is when you lengthen your exhalation and when you breathe out fully, a lot of toxins is removed from the body. It is not only helpful for asthma. So the question, is it helpful for asthma? Is definitely helpful for asthma. There is no doubt about it. It's not only helpful for asthma. It is helpful for things like migraines, headaches, constant headaches, sleep disorders, so many other things. And of course, the larger things like diabetes and heart problems, those take much longer because that needs more practice. Because all of these were part of a lifestyle at one point, right? They would chant so many Oms and meditate so much that all of these imbalances in the body were kept at bay. But now if we have them, then to correct them and to overcome them, in other words, look for a cure in Omkara. I will not promise it as a cure, but I can assure you that it will go a long way in helping controlling these things. And as long as you keep practicing the Om, all of these things will stay controlled initially, and then slowly, in fact, even have the propensity to go away. For example, and that's the thing about yoga. There was I remember I dealt with a person with vertigo. She came for an entire yoga program, asanas and pranayama and omkar and everything. And within 6 months, she said, "I have no vertigo at all." Now, whether it returned or not, I don't know. This was 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So I don't know if it has returned. If it has returned, it could mean that she stopped her practice. That is what it is, right? So there are certain disorders that could be genetically prone, but we can keep them at bay. We don't have to allow them to express itself if we have a good lifestyle. So something to think about. Omkar is definitely helpful because it is a great way to detoxify at a physical level, simply more than anything. Okay. Now, so therefore, it is very good for older people. Why? Because they will be able to hold the breath longer. That means their voice will have more strength in that chanting. Now, I don't know if there's a question related to this later. I'm not sure, but there was also a question saying, what happens when we come to the 16th Om, and the last 6 ohms or the last 4 ohms, it becomes more and more difficult for us to say. It's natural, right? It's natural, and it happens even for me. But because I constantly keep pushing my threshold, because once it starts chanting, I just want to keep it to keep going. I love the length, I love the sound, and I want to keep going. But there is a point where physically it stops. And so when you keep doing this for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times, 15 times, 16 times, the lungs are tired. It's like in any other exercise. So the lung muscles are tired, and therefore the longer you keep doing, the more number of times you keep doing, it'll start you will start feeling the strain on the lung. So it's a natural thing. Don't worry. But with practice, you will become steady. And then when you become steady and you're able to chant, then automatically you will push yourself a little more. So this constant feeling a little bit of discomfort as far as the chanting is concerned towards the end of the 21 omkars is a natural thing, but it will be part of your overall experience. That little discomfort will not bother you, because you'll know it's just a lung stretching it to its maximum. But be careful that you don't, it's not like a kriya. You don't go to the point where there is no breath left and you breathe. This is meditative in nature. So beyond a point, don't push your physical capacity to such a point that it becomes discomfort. Don't treat this particular omkar chanting in the morning, and I'm not talking about the omkar kriyas, I'm talking of the 21 ohms as meditation. This particular thing is a meditative practice. It's cleansing and all of that is happening incidentally. That's not the main aim. Here, the main aim is to focus on each om and get within, with the help of the sound, you go within. You're using the highest sound, the lightest element of space, and you're digging deep, and you're pulling the earth energy and water energy and all of that. Earth gets pulled into water, water into fire, fire into air, air into space. So the entire consciousness automatically moves up, whether you imagine or not. As long as you meditate on each of these elements and you allow the consciousness to go to different parts of the body, you're automatically creating that, opening that passage. Okay. So physically it is good, but physical benefits are incidental in this. The greater benefits, when I say incidental, it doesn't mean I'm undermining them. That will automatically come, don't worry. So people with asthma can practice Omkar, but they have to be careful. If they have severe asthma, okay, you have to be careful. So after 3 or 4 ohms, take a break. If you are using an inhaler, use an inhaler, take a few 3 or 4 breaths in between, and then go for another 3 or another 4, or just do, like I said, 7. In that each ohm you meditate on all the elements and make it only 7 ohms instead of 21 ohms. So like that you can slowly increase your capacity. But if you do this for 6 months to a year, you will notice a big change. You'll be able to climb 2 stories, 3 stories easily without much ado. You can hold long conversations. You can sing with a loud voice. Your voice will be nice and bold. That will be one of the greatest benefits of Om. And when you speak, people will begin to listen, because you, in that Om chanting, you're actually reaching out to the original sound of the universe. So when you speak, there will be influence. Okay, some tip for parents. I'm not a parent, so I don't know if it really works with children. But sometime when you practice this on your own, then when you begin to speak, automatically the person on the other side, whether he's on the other side of the phone or other side of the Zoom call, or if it's a child in front of you, they'll begin to pay attention. That is an energy of the universe you begin to draw. So that's such a marvelous practice, the Omas. So yes, yes, yes to all these three questions. Let's go to the next one on Om. The question is, can we stop breathing between the Oms? So I've got 3 or 4 emails, and I think I may have not made it clear. I got a text also a few minutes ago saying, can I stop exhaling at the end? You see, the thing is, when you breathe out the Om, there is really nothing much left for you to stop there. There is no, you can't stop your breath, because when you stop your breath, what are you focusing on? You'll be focusing on the breath that is stopped, which is the last thing you want. You're lost in that concept of that element or on the chakra or whatever it is at that moment you're focusing on. And so that is your focus. Whether your breath is stopping or not, if you're doing those kind of things consciously, then it becomes a mere exercise. It becomes a feat. And so you don't practice the stopping of breath at all, number one. Number two, it's not really considered um, very good practice to consciously begin to stop your breath in such matters. Okay. Why? Because the next question is, I added that, the 3 4 questions, I just clubbed them together. Because the next question here is, what should we focus in the space between two ohms? So when that ohm finishes, you have to be focused on the turiya, the silence. The silence is your focus. Because turiya, what is turiya? It's just, you can't imagine turiya, right? So when we talk about the turiya and the 16th Om and Agnya Chakra and all, we are talking of brilliance and Satya and all. So, but in this, in that space between the two Oms in turiya, just focus on that silence that exists. And as you're breathing in, you're focused on the silence in that inhalation. So it is the most important part of the two Oms. If you break that into somehow stopping the breath and then struggling to breathe in, and you're caught up in the inhalation, getting ready for the next Om, you miss the most important part, that is a space between the two Oms. So if somebody were to ask me, what is the most important part of the Oms, I would say the silence between the two Oms is the most important part. Rest of it is a ladder that takes you there. And that silence is where you should be as you inhale. Experience the silence. Don't worry if my inhalation is too much, too less. All of that will fall in place. When my next Om, can it be longer? All of that, don't worry. I mean, all of these things will get ironed out. I've been there. I've been focused so much on the exercise part of it. I missed the magic until I heard Baba say that the most important thing is the silence between the two Oms. That is a Turiya Avasa. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even focus there. I was more focusing on how long to chant, how loud to chant, what should be the ratio between the Akara, Ukara, Makara. But by then I had learned all this. So it was easy for me to transition. So there is a learning phase, okay? There was also a question is, what all can we focus on? Should we focus on the chant? Should we focus on the element? Should we focus on the chakra? There's just too much. And this is what I said earlier as well. I do remember it, and it's worth repeating here. It's like when you learn driving a car, it's just way too many things. In India especially, you have these um, uh, manual gears. Here too you have, but it's cheaper to buy an automatic gear, I think. So when you have manual gear, you have to press the clutch, you have to release the gear carefully, and then you have to release the clutch and hit the gas together. It's two different directions. You have to check out the mirrors. So many things are happening. Plus, there could be a kid who's constantly talking to you, or somebody in your passenger seat, you get to engage them. So now suddenly all this seems overwhelming when you are learning to drive. Right? You don't know where to see. You'll see here, your hand goes off the side, and you have to be careful and all of that. So many of you are driving now, can relate to that. How, think of the first time when you drove, there was so much excitement, so much things going on. And then now what do? You're taking all those things which seem to completely occupy your attention. Now all that is reduced to one small little, almost subconsciously, you're just you easily switch gears, you're talking, engaged in a very deep conversation with somebody, and you're still able to drive, maneuver, adjust, look into the mirror, adjust the distance, park, everything you can do, right? How are you able to do that? With practice. With practice. So don't get discouraged in Om, and this becomes more difficult here. Why? Because this is not a practice with hands and feet like in the car, right? This is a practice of getting the mind in focus, and then when the mind gets focused in this, you add a layer of focus on top of that. So it becomes a little more difficult. It takes longer time to practice. Give it a few months. So that's why I said, as you practice for spiritual as a spiritual sadhana, as you practice this, the physical benefits kick in from day one. So what do you have got to lose, right? After a year of practice, let's say you get disillusioned with the whole thing and you say, oh, that is too much, I gain nothing out of it. You cannot say that, because at a physical level, a lot of detoxification would have taken place. So you have nothing to lose by practicing this. Okay, so practice it with patience. Please don't stop breathing between two ohms. The stopping of breath, cessation of breath, all of that is not taught like this online. It is not taught to householders. It is not taught to people who go to work. It is not taught like that. It is, please, I will not do that. And Baba specifically told me not to do that, because it is learned when you start practicing kumbhaka and all of that. Kumbhaka is cessation of breath. When that is practiced, it is a completely different lifestyle. It's 100% hermit lifestyle. You cannot be in the city, you cannot watch TV and hold a cell phone and talk to people when you're in that kind of sadhana. That's a different sadhana. Is that required for self-actualization? No. That is a path. Somebody chooses to be there. Do you have to go to that extreme? Perhaps not. Perhaps. It's a matter of your choice, right? But when we do this, I'm talking to general people like me. I don't practice kumbhaka. I don't need it. And I've had the greatest of experiences without the need for kumbhaka. And yet, when those things happen, those things, I allow it as grace. Those are a very, very different level of experiences altogether. So you don't start practicing that and bringing it into the Om, you will miss the magic of the Om, you'll miss the whole spiritual progress, and you'll be caught in the techniques of it. Okay? So please understand that cessation of breath, between breathing, inhalations and exhalations, stop breathing, all of that, just because those yoga scriptures are available on the internet doesn't mean everybody and anybody can practice. It is not meant to be. And Swami told me so seriously about it. Baba, he said, are you teaching this? You teach pranayama and everything, but don't teach kumbhaka. He said that. And he said, Neni chaptano, I'll tell you when to when to teach. So if there is an opening with somebody, then I will definitely share that. Being, if I feel guided, that Baba is telling me, but not in these kind of things. So please don't consider cessation of breath in your practice of yoga, whether it is pranayama or meditation or anything, the way I teach it. Now, if you have some other guru who says it's okay, then of course you follow them. But from my point of view, this is my perspective on that. So I covered this. Let's go to the next one. What if we get headache while chanting ohms? I got this also from a couple of people. They said when we chanting ohms, start the chant, we get headaches. We start chanting mantras, we get headache. Why is that? It's hard for me to relate to it because I never experienced anything like that. It could be many reasons. If it's every time that you chant, it's maybe because you're getting too caught up in, am I doing it correctly? You're getting stressed about the whole thing. Take it very easy. Any mantra for that matter. Am I doing it correctly? What if I do something wrong? What if I say one mantra wrong? Nothing will happen. The universe is not going to come down crashing on you. Nothing will happen. So just take it very, very, very easy and calmly and get into this practice. It's a meditative practice. There is nothing to be stressed about in this practice. If you stress yourself, then the magic of the practice goes away. So keep it very slow. These are the things that I come to my mind when I need to advise somebody. I will say take it very slowly. If it's a mantra that you're chanting, don't chase numbers of the mantra. Then you're going fast. You're trying to finish it fast. Then it will generate some heat in the body, which it may not be natural. Take it very easy. If you don't have time for some reason, not because you choose today, I don't feel like it, not like that. But if genuinely something comes up, you don't have time, Then instead of 108 times, you do it 54 times, or do it half of that, right? 27 times, or do it 9 times, or whatever times you want, just do it. But do those things, you have to be very, very, very gentle. Like, look at the speed at which we chant. Some of you attend the satsangs in the evening. We chant the Dakshinamurti mantra, Mula mantra. So we chant it so slow. We can go Sri Guru, Paramaguru, Parameshti Guru, Paratpara Guru, Mahaguru, Swarupaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medham Pragyam Prayacha Swaha, Sri Guru, Paramaguru. I can do this 108 times. But now it becomes very mechanical, because first of all, I'm borrowing a language I may not be speaking every day. If you're speaking Sanskrit, it's different. But I'm assuming 99% of the people here don't speak on an everyday basis, correct? We use some words of Sanskrit in our mother tongue and all that. So, especially it's a foreign language, I need to go slow so that I can understand what I'm saying. And then the bhava is there, the emotion is there, there is energy. You have to release these potent energies in the mantra. So, till the mantra siddhi is attained, which is 300,000 plus times, which is chanted, when with the same intensity and emotion and bhava, then the mantra begins to get activated, right? When that happens, then automatically you will know that speed in you will happen naturally. You don't chase speed, just like you don't chase cessation of breath. That will come naturally, because without losing track of your bhava, the meaning and everything, you will be able to chant it a little faster, maybe. But at that point, you will not be interested in the speed at all. You will lose yourself in the beauty of the chant. But initially, when you practice Om or any mantra, don't go for numbers. Please adjust go for very slow chanting. Absorb each word just for the energy of that sound itself. There is a lot of sound that is released, a lot of energy, sorry, that is released in that sound. Absorb. Don't think what is this energy and all. Don't worry about it. That is why these mantras, why do we trust them whether these are good for me or not? Because these are the Mula mantras written from the Upanishads and Vedas. So they're not going to harm anything. That's why you need somebody to explain to you what this mantra means, whom are we calling, what is the form, and all of that. Right? That is what we discuss in the satsang. Once you know that every single sound of this is actually a very auspicious sound, it's a very valuable sound, it's something which is appealing to me in my heart, and you feel one with it, then you begin to chant. Right? At that point, even if you don't understand word by word meaning, it's okay. Don't let all these things stress your mind, because I think these are the things that could cause headache. So take it very easy. Even Om, I can't chant longer, I can't chant louder. She's chanting longer than me, he is chanting longer than me. Why can't I do longer? None of those. You're not comparing at all. You are losing yourself in your element. So even if it is even if it is that short, it's perfectly okay. Okay, so practice like that. It's very important, because these are very powerful practices, very divine practices, prescribed by our beloved Bhagwan. Then, what time of the day should Oms be practiced? Should the stomach be empty? What kind of ritual we should do? And this was a question pertaining to yoga as well. It's a very simple thing. Oms are ideally done in the morning. Why? Because early mornings, especially before the sun rises, when it is dark, the mind is quiet. You have just got up from sleep, so there is really no such a pressing work that is making you run around, unless you got up late. So you can always choose to get up 20 minutes earlier. If your practice of Om is going to take 20 minutes, if that 20 minutes is extra time, get up 20 minutes earlier and try and finish it first thing in the morning. So ideally, you want to empty the bowels before coming for yoga, before doing Omkar, or before doing any kind of meditation practice or pranayama practice. Why? Now that you have understood the elements, let me explain. We are not touched upon these vayus, so I will not go into details now. When we talk about the vayu principle again more in detail, we'll go into that. But what happens is, there is one vayu called apana vayu, which goes downward, which pushes, which is focused on pushing, which is focused on sleep, laziness. It makes the water and the earth element heavier. It activates the earth and water element. So it drags you down. When you feel lazy, lethargic, sleepy, tired, when you want your bowels to go, when your bowels have to move, right? You feel like going to the toilet, then this is the air that is predominant. So what happens then? How are you going to take your consciousness up? The prana, which normally moves up, is caught in the middle because apana vayu, the other apana, which is the opposite direction, is more active. So when you empty the bowels, you clear the bowels in the morning, then what happens? The apana vayu has done its job. Now the apana vayu is ready to be tamed and turned upward. Okay, we will revisit this and learn more about it. But at this point, I just wanted to give you that if you're not able to clear your bowels, then you may not find it as effective. So what happens if I'm constipated? That would be the next question. What happens if I'm not able to clear my bowels in the morning? uh, make it a habit. That's the only way I can say. Drink a lot of water before going to bed. uh, Eat fibrous food in the evening. Don't eat very late dinners at night. All of these practices will help you clear the first thing in the morning. Your system will be ready, clear. Another one thing you could try if you have to clear your stomach in the morning is, before you get up from bed, sleep on your right side. Before you get up from the bed, just like you're about to get up and you want 5 minutes of snooze, if you will, or 10 minutes, you want to just snooze a little. Turn on your right side, press your right side, and snooze for 10 minutes. That could help. I'm not saying it will. That could help. So we'll understand all this later on when we study Swara sadhana. Swara is breath. There's a whole sadhana about breath. But right now, I'm just giving you these tips. Try it out. See if it works. If it doesn't work, then see, the thing is, this Swara sadhana and all, if I give you a tip like this, without adjusting, if you eat at 11 o'clock at night and try to get up at 6 in the morning, and all of that is not going to work. If you eat a heavy meal, if there's no fiber in your meal, it's just pure simple carbs and all of that. If there is no fiber, then obviously you're not going. That's none of this other sadhanas, bara sadhanas are going to help, right? So it's a whole lifestyle. So let us approach it in properly. But having said that, I'm just giving you a tip for you to try. If it helps you, that's fine. But if there is no magic fix, if you cannot, if your bowels are not moving in the morning, there's no magic fix. It's not the end of the day again. Don't stop your practice simply because you can't clear your bowels in the morning. Okay, continue your practice. The grace will come, the universal energy, the elements will come into balance. Your lifestyle habits will change. You'll become more and more. You'll get more and more knowledge of how to adjust your food and other diet and all other habits. Then when you become a serious practitioner in the spiritual path, which is what this is all about, right? This is not for everyone. This is for people who say, all right, you know what, I want to understand more about spirituality. And so then how do I adopt this path? So when you become more and more tuned into the path, automatically all of this, your body will begin to follow the universal cycles. Okay, if you have pets at home, the first thing in the morning you take them out, they do their jobs. That is so almost like a textbook thing that happens, right? That is what we have to learn from them. They are so disciplined, and they need their food on time, they eat it on time, they sleep on time, they'll get up in the morning and go. Unless there are, of course, exceptions when they are not well, but most of the time, nature follows a harmony. We have broken those principles, and therefore our bodies gotten out of rhythm. So simply by changing the way I breathe or switching sides may not really solve a problem until I take a bigger look. But while I'm doing that, these small tips may help. But try to sit on the potty, if you will, for longer time, and encourage the movement of the bowels, because that will help. Once that system is clear, automatically your yoga practice, your asana practice, that is one side. Before that, meditation and om will be fantastic. Okay, so ideally first thing in the morning. Now if you say, I don't have time in the morning, what do I do? I don't know why, but if you have, let's say you work in the evenings, you have a night shift and you come home late, then do the omkar and go to sleep. Because at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, if you're coming back home, you are not going to eat at that time. You would have had your dinner earlier. Okay, that 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night and 2 o'clock in the night is not the time to eat anyway. So that you do the Omkar meditation and then consciously say, all right, now I'm going to go to bed. So that's a nice way to entertain. There's a third, that is for extreme cases, if you are doing night shifts and all of that, right? The other alternative is evening time, sunset time. Sunset time is also a very nice time. If you are sure that you are going to be available around the same time every day. Now, if you're going to work, sometimes you get caught in the traffic jam, you're not able to come back in time. You have a meeting to attend, you have a function to attend. What happens is then your sadhana gets adjusted for something else. And that's not a good signal sent to the subconscious mind. That means the main thing for my spirituality, which I think is main, I'll push it around to adjust my other lifestyles. So what happens is subconsciously you are moving the God principle in you around rather than going around the God principle, keeping that in the center. That's why we do pradakshina around the temples, right? The God principle in me will be in the center of my life. Everything I do will revolve around the God principle. My thought, my words, my deeds, my actions, my choices, my decisions, everything will revolve around this principle. This is rooted in the ground. This is not going to move, right? It's solid granite, image, marble, whatever it is. A big temple is sitting here. I go around it. So if I do that, then it makes sense. But if I move the temple around to suit my life, then my life will be chaotic. So that is why, and this is not just the modernism talking, this was the case for everyone for thousands of years, because once the day begins, you get caught up in everyday life, whatever, whether they're a farmer or a fisherman or a pandit, right? The days goes on. So you're not sure of ascribing a time which is so very important like meditation, because in that meditation, what you're doing, you're going back to your God principle, you're going back home. That is so important, right? And therefore they would say, if you're sure of doing it in the Sandhya time, do it. But that's always considered secondary. First thing is in the morning, the awakening. Prabodha samaye, Prabodha samaye. That is the beauty. Now, upon awakening, so physically awakening, the nature's awakening, and you will be perfectly tuned to spiritual awakening. That is the best time to do. Okay, hopefully I answered all doubts and queries around that. What is the difference between Om and Soham sadhana? Can both be practiced? Yes, both can be practiced because both are very different. I have not really talked about Soham, but we will in the due course. The Om is a chant. You say it aloud. You breathe in, and as you breathe out, you're chanting the Om. It is more of a kriya. Even though we do Omkara kriya separately, even though we are chanting, this becomes a mantra, a kriya. You're doing something. Soham is pranayama. Soham, there is no mantra chanting aloud. The lips are sealed. You are listening to the sound of the breath as it goes in, so, and the ha that comes out. So we practice one part of it, the ha. Anytime you want, you can go ha. So ha becomes hum because you close your lips at the end of ha. Right? So when you breathe in, it is so. When you breathe out, it is hum. That is a pranayama. That is not a chant. So at the end of the Oms, if you're purely in the path of meditation, let's say you don't have time for yogasanas or you're not inclined towards yogasanas, abhyasa. So at the end of the Oms, you can take a break, come back later on after half an hour, 45 minutes, and then sit down and do Soham pranayama, left and right out. Or simply just breathe in for 4 counts, so breathe out for 8 counts, hum. Right? Soham. That is a pranayama. So both can be practiced. You can split it in 2 different times of the day or practice it one after the other. All of this you can do. But ideally, like I always say, all these kind of very powerful, subtle practices where you don't want any disturbance in the morning, early in the morning, when there are no telephone calls going to come, no messages that you need to check so desperately, unless there is a function is taking place somewhere and you need to answer or something like exceptional days. But otherwise, that's the best time to do all these practices. So yes, both can be practiced. And yes, there is a difference because one is a chant, the other one, Om, is a chant. Soham is a pranayama practice. It is done silently. A great aid for meditation. So just like we do the Ramanama pranayama, you can do the same thing with Soham pranayama. And you can switch alternate days if you want, or you can just keep to Ramanama pranayama itself. Okay, all these have the same power. Then let's go to the Sankhya based on what we discussed in the last two classes. Is there a way we can bring Sankhya into our daily meditations? Of course you can. So let's go to that. There you see. Here, if you see this chart, it is all the 21 ohms, right? It has got all the 21 ohms. Let me get out of the way. And this today I figured out that if I go out of the way, you can still hear me. And if you don't, let's see. But I don't think you will have a problem. Today I figured out how to do that. Okay. So in front of, because I don't want to be a distraction there. When you look at this board here, if you notice the bottommost line, the chakra's name is not there, but that is your earth element. Earth, smell related to nose, Mooladhara chakra. So the 3 ohms can be finished there. So along with your ohms, you can meditate on each of these elements. Then you have the water and fire, wind and space. So in that 5 chakras as you cover, you are covering 15 ohms. In the 15 ohms, you are covering all of this, right? Because each ohm, 1 ohm is about the chakra, the second ohm is about the element, third ohm is about the indriya that supports it. So you can add the jnana indriya and karma indriya, club them together. This is about smelling and about my nose, that kind of thing. So you can add that and make it 15 practices. Then you can then comes the ajna. Then in the ajna you meditate on the brilliance, the mahat tattva. And then after the brilliance comes the absolute truth. What is the truth? What is the truth? The absolute truth is there is only Purusha and Prakriti now. Prakriti is drawing herself into her equilibrium state. Going back, because you're going back now. You're rewinding creation back to Prakriti. So in Agnya, the Agnya chakra you focus on, then you focus on the brilliance, the Mahat Tattva. That is now you've gone beyond the Ahankara. And then you're focusing on whatever that definition of truth, what do you understand of Purusha and Prakriti at that point. You focus and understand that. And then comes the Sahasrara. There you meditate on the one, where everything is just Purusha. Right? And the last one is you be the Om. Just all of this merge into that nothingness. Because words fail. So let your imagination go. It doesn't matter. Let your visualization, imagination take you wherever. However you want to experience that vastness. Open your mind in the last Om. So in Om chanting now, I can actually every day practice the entire Sankhya. And what will happen? That concepts of Sankhya will become very, 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 very clear. Every day as I consistently, or every 2 days, whenever, as often as you do the Oms, now you understand. This is why after Oms I introduce the Sankhya now. Now you can link them together and you can bring Sankhya in your everyday practice. So yes, the answer is yes. Bring it in your everyday meditation. You can now, if you're not doing the Oms, then you can just sit in Sankhya and draw the chart. Either start from the top, come down, or from the bottom, go back to the top, or both ways. You can start from Purusha, come all the way down to the earth, and then ask yourself, how do I go back to being the Purusha? Find your way back in that chart. So it becomes powerful means of meditation. These are meditation on concepts. So when we talk about, when we learn Yoga Sutras, we'll see how Patanjali talks about each of these are kind of samadhis. All of these are different things. So he talks about meditating on dreams. He talks about meditating on ideas. He talks about meditating on objects. All of these are discussed in the Yoga Sutras. They are discussed so small, but then you take that gem and discuss it a lot more in detail. But then all of these are practices which are prescribed in meditation, prescribed practices. Okay? And the more you meditate on concepts and abstract ideas like these, the more you'll open yourself to divine grace. That's the beauty. Because your mind starts opening up. You start connecting dots. Intuition begins, the Medha Shakti, if you will. That's what we are calling upon to Dakshinamurti, right? Mahyam Medham, the Medha Shakti, the ability to comprehend and see in between lines. See the connecting dots. Observe the synchronicity in your life. You will begin to realize how you are inadvertently, you are the architect of your life. And you begin to take more and more control of your life. It's fascinating. So meditation on these concepts alone itself is good. But please take this up for study. Like on your own, you should be able to draw this chart, memorize it and draw it. And you can draw it in the same fashion as you saw it, or you can come up with something very unique. What is your way of understanding it? Can you see it in a 3D holographic visualization? Connect the dots and see that manifest. And then apply that in your everyday life. Oh, that is what I was thinking of. See, when you see a deer or a camel or a mouse, think of something. When you get a strong smell connected to back to Sankhya, so you will find that the sadhana continues throughout the day. That is nididhyasana. Shravana is listening, manana is contemplation, nididhyasana is begin to apply that in your everyday life. Okay. Then comes in Sankhya, there were some doubts about this cosmic I and the ego I. Where is the ego in this Sankhya? Now, I can understand that confusion because, I'm sorry, let me go back to that chart here. I can understand that confusion. So, there is only one ahankara in this chart, right? When you're looking at the chart, what are you seeing here? Just one ahankara. Where is that ahankara? Below Mahat. When the consciousness exploded, the brilliance happened, then the I came into existence to own that experience, period. Only one I exists. But then the I as Sundar, where does that exist? The I who likes to smell certain smells, the I who likes to taste certain things, the I who gets angry. When Sundar gets angry, when Sundar is happy, when Sundar is sleeping, when Sundar is awake, which I is that? The big I is there, but now that I is playing the role, it's getting mixed. That is why when the I came, it comes with the three gunas. So what happens in the three gunas? There appears, this is the illusion part, there appears to be a Sundar in action. And there appears to be a Sundar very well defined. It's like a virtual reality now suddenly created because of the three gunas. So in me, there is only one I. But because of the three gunas that comes with that I, now that I decides to play a role, it creates a Sundar. And then now Sundar becomes, oh, I need my realization, I forgot my identity and all of that. I forget that I am the ahankara directly from Purusha and Prakriti. I become involved in, I like this smell, I don't like that smell, I like this taste, I don't like that taste. I'm happy, I'm sad. I engage in destroying my sound energy by talking, engaging in so much, creating more noise, in other words, noise, distraction. So it just goes on and on and on. So what happens now? This ego I, if you will, I just call it ego I because there's small I and big I, right? This small I appears to be many I's there. Sundar as a father, Sundar as a brother, Sundar as a husband, Sundar as a friend, Sundar as a yoga teacher, Sundar as a singer, Sundar has so many roles now to play. It appears, oh gosh, it's so complicated. But that I really doesn't exist. This is why I think I mentioned in one of the satsangs many moons ago, if you will. Now we are on this for such a long time. In one of the satsangs, where I asked Baba this, Baba, how do we get rid of this ahankara, this ego that I feel? How do I go back to my I? And he said, where do you even exist? Why do you call it big? Where are you? And then he said, where do you come from? I said, I come from Bombay. He said, where is Bombay? Maharashtra. Where is Maharashtra? India. Where is... So we went on like this asking, right? Where is India in Indian Asian continent? Where is India? Asia is in this earth, in this bhumi. Where is the bhumi? In this solar system. Where's the solar system in the universe? Like this it goes. Then he started coming back. He said, in that wide universe, where billions of millions of galaxies could exist, you have a solar system which itself is beyond our imagination in terms of distance and expanse. And in that solar system, there are so many planets. In that planet, there is one Earth. In that Earth, there are so many continents. In that continent, there is one continent, Asia. So, and then it comes to that among 7 billion people, there is so many in India, and comes to Maharashtra, Bombay, Villaparle, comes to my flat, and me. By the time he comes to me, I am so tiny. I almost seem non-existent. Then he says, in such a big universe, where is a place for your eye? There is no place. I mean, he meant it as in a lighter way, but in that understanding that eye really doesn't exist. That is the illusion we are talking about. The big eye is there, but the big eye has got now completely enveloped in these gunas. So these gunas come back as the eye is now enveloped in 5 sheets. So we will study the 5 sheets, another approach to the same truth. Then you will begin to say, okay, wherever I look, it's like this. Wow. Now these elements that we talked of, cognition functions and elements, they're all now in 5 sheets. How do I break through these 5 sheets to go back to the ahankara? That is what it is. So where is the ego in all of this? It's everywhere. Everywhere below the big, the moment ahankara becomes manas, that ego is manifesting, because all the cognition function comes, all the elements are there, and it's constantly, rajas is constantly mixing the sattva and the tamas, and therefore the whole concept of sundar is created, and the manas keeps carrying that from one life to the other till it draws back itself to the ahankara, and the ahankara immediately draws back, because that from there again you could come back to manas stage, right? Let's go back to mahat, go back to prakriti, and that prakriti has to merge. That is a chitta vritti nirodha that Patanjali is talking of. Which vritti? Prakriti being the inner completely absorbed state. There's no I there also, right? That I there. If there's a way to describe that prakriti, there's that I in its completely potent state. That also has to merge into purusha. That vritti, when it merges, it's called yoga. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. That vritti has to merge. Asampragnata samadhi. That is what? Nirvikalpa samadhi. Asampragnata samadhi. So, till then, that I will be there. But that I, as the journey from this I to that I, is what makes this magical. It's a magical journey. A journey of revelations, a journey of heartbreaks, if you will. I have to give up my favorite TV shows. I have to give up my favorite food. I have to give up my favorite colors. I get separated from my near and dear ones. Life throws all its challenges. So there is a heartbreaks and all of that. But then there are also revelations that there is really no separation, that there is really no taste. I'm living in an illusion, and so on and so forth. And in that balance between the good experiences and the bad experiences, good wins, and spirituality, as long as we carry on the sadhana of self-introspection, of meditation, of practice, then slowly the I begins its journey back home. And that journey is beautiful. It is paved with divine experiences. It's not a dry, boring path. It has got a lot more to reveal. The joy and the high that you get from there, all dimensions, all these energies of devas, everything begins alive, because now you're going from one level of reality to another level of reality. Then you find even that is not real. Then you progress, but that journey is just fascinating. It's fascinating. It's like one of the best adventures ever. So never stop your spiritual practice. And don't get disheartened if sometimes you think, Bapre, I'm too late in this lifetime. Say, well, so what? I made a beginning. I'll carry in my next lifetime. And even if it's a 10,000 more lifetime, so what? I'm like that. I'm excited that I've already begun this journey. And in this life, I've been blessed with so much. I'm looking forward, like, what more? Even if I don't complete here, we always take off from where you left off. Be assured of that. So in my next lifetime, when my manas comes back, it's going to take off from where I left. my situations and circumstances will be even more conducive for my spiritual path. But if I give it up halfway now, then I will come back to the same confused state. I have to start all over again. Right? So, ego is everywhere in the Sankhya, and yet we have to pull ourselves, extricate ourselves from that false ego to the big one, from the little I to the big I, to the one I that exists, and then go further and back. But at least let's go back to that big I. All right. If touch is, and this is a good question I got yesterday, if touch is an energy, and many of us have, perhaps have thought about it, some people know this answer very well. If touch is an energy, then does this energy get transmitted when you touch others? What happens when you touch somebody's feet? Now, how does this, if there's positive energy or negative energy, how do we know? Will it affect us? So here is the beauty of this energy principle. Please listen to this carefully. By touch, you can receive energy, you can give energy. So now that's clear, right? How will a negative energy from somebody else, if somebody else touches you, okay, assuming, quote unquote, I don't know what kind of negative energy it will be, but with some negative impulse or thought, he or she touches you, will that affect you? Will that create some illness or negative energy into you and somehow disturb your equilibrium? Now, that could happen only if you are so weak in your mind and so weak in your spiritual practice that you don't have an aura of fortress that is around you. If you practice, let's say the Om, if you practice your mantras, if you practice yoga, if you practice any kind of sadhana, and if you have the Guru's grace, there is an aura of protection. So that is, even if it's the simplest aura, a mildest aura, it will protect you. Unless you're so confused and so weak, which I've not met anyone like that yet, right? It will not affect you. Why? Why is that negative energy from that person so weak that it cannot affect you? Negative energy from anyone is very weak. If at all, it affects the person who's emitting that negative energy. It will not affect the other person. You might get depressed if you're in a person's depressed company. Let's say one guy goes on talking about his problems. After a while, you are also like, oh gosh, I feel depressed. Now, that is just a satsangam effect of a satsang, right? That is not causing negative energy in you, right? Unless you open your mind and get involved into it so much. That means you are opening the door. If you don't want, you can close the door in your mind and not get affected by it, right? So this is what we call when people get excited because somebody rouses you to anger. You blame that person, but the person listening is allowed that to happen. Yeah, I'm willing to listen to you. Come on, yeah, I want to kill somebody because you told me, or some weird thing like that. But that is all because you are allowing that energy to come to you. If you don't consciously want that energy to come to you, it will not affect you. You will not allow it. You have that much divine power is inbuilt. Why is it so? Positive energies will easily flow to you. Easily, even without your asking, positive energies will flow. Blessings will flow. How so? You see, when you want to bless somebody in your own mindset, you become selfless at that moment. At that moment, no matter you're Ravana, let's say, you're a demon king and you've got a whole history of evil deeds behind you. At that moment, when you want to bless somebody, at that moment, your heart feels like you want to bless somebody and you bless. That moment, your spirit opens to that spirit and positive energy happens. Because in that blessings, in that willingness to bless somebody, you are opening the doors of oneness. Because you are one, right? We are connected. We are all in one consciousness. So when we think of somebody else and say, may blessings be there. May that person be safe. May that person be happy. It doesn't matter who you are, how sinful you are, how bad you are. At that moment, your positive energy is connecting to that person and blessing them. Okay. Because why? Because I've opened my mind to that concept of oneness. The I in me has taken a back step. And now that person is in my consciousness. and that person's goodness is in my consciousness. It'll bless. Okay, so now let's turn the other way around. Let us say I don't like somebody. So can I hold that person in consciousness and say, may evil befall that person, may that person get destroyed, I hate him, I don't like him? Who is in that consciousness actually? Not that person. Now when I think like that, I might think that person is in my consciousness. That person is actually not in my consciousness at all. Why? Because I have closed that door that opens to connect to that person's spirit. Why? Because of me and I and what I want. Because he spoke to me something bad, or because she did something bad to me, I want her out of my life. So I'm sitting here and meditating, I want her out of my life, I want that person to get ill, I want that person to get sick. All I'm doing is creating that phenomenal negative energy in my own consciousness. But because of the the I is creating it, it is not even going out. Please think of it. This is positive energy, an energy of blessing. A prayer for healing opens that door. So the person on the other hand will receive positive energy without any problem. You will never receive a negative energy from somebody unless you open your mind, you open and you say, I surrender to you. Whatever you tell me, I will do. And then that person will take charge of you, and you allow that person to overcome by some subtle way. That person can never transmit negative energy to you. There is no such thing as black magic having effect on you unless you're so weak, unless you don't have a guru's protection. If you have a guru whom you have accepted in your heart, that's all you need. If you have a guru, automatically that protection comes. But if you feel something is going wrong because of some black magic, or because of somebody done some evil or something like that, which some people might think, that is all weaknesses in our mind. Nobody outside can actually bring effect upon you. Nobody, unless you open your mind and surrender to that out of fear or out of confusion or out of guilt. Then you are allowing that person by his speech to plant a subconscious thought in you, which will start becoming acting in you. You have allowed that door. You have consciously opened that door. But if you don't want, you say, protect me. That is why mantra is traya. Trayate iti mantra. Manana trayate iti. Traya is protection. Trayate iti mantra. That which protects you. Mantra protects us. It gives that powerful energy to the mind to protect. So even in times of deep depression and negativity for my own self, if I go into a state of deep depression, even then that mantras that I have chanted will come and give us a protection. That is the power of these mantras. And these mantras, that's why when we do Om Gang Ganapati Nama, I go on saying, I'm not giving a musical program. I'm using music as an excuse to allow us to listen to those mantras, because I know those mantras begin to protect us, begin to bring vitality, protect us from diseases, and so on. So that is the power of mantra, of sound, because from sound is what the entire creation has come. So let's go back to sound. That is it. Okay, so don't worry about touch. Yes, energies can be transmitted, but negative energies very, very rarely. If that was the case, then we could have killed each other by just touching. It doesn't work like that. Okay, even if that negative energy is supposed to touch, one touch is not going to make any difference. It's if you're so weak, and if that person is constantly touching you and so on and so forth. So that is all very, very exceptional cases. If you don't like somebody, you're not going to let somebody touch you anyway, right? That one occasional pat on the back or touching you is not going to do anything, nothing at all, unless, like I said, you're so weak and so caught in guilt-ridden and so fear-ridden that you say, oh my God, he touched me, something is going to happen to me. Now you're in your fear opening that door, and then you will automatically, all your own subconscious fears will begin to act. But please be assured that touch will not harm you. If anything, touch can only heal. It can be less effective. Like you go to a person and he touches you and says, I'm healing you and all, it may not be effective because that person is not so selfless in that. Not to blame him, but it's natural, right? There might be an agenda, like you pay a priest something, he blesses you. If you pay him less, he's going to say, yeah, anyway, I'll bless you. So he's doing it half-heartedly. He's not being an instrument of the divine, being selfless and all of that. He's doing blessing you because you gave him some dakshina. And so it's like, I'm talking in general terms. So he'll bless you. So that is why what happened in the previous times, what they would do is they would, the Brahmin who comes or the priest who does the puja, they will make him very happy. Please eat well. Please do everything. Because when he is happy, he's going to chant mantras with a happy mind. He's going to spread positive vibrations in the house. So yes, whatever you want, we'll give you. Now that those people could take advantage, that is their problem. But the point here is, you make them happy, right? So it all of that really plays a role into why certain practices have been certain ways. Now sometimes they've gone astray, if you will. Priests have taken advantage of that, and so they demand things, and you're afraid that he might get angry and curse you, so you go on pleasing him. It doesn't work like that. Nothing done out of fear can ever work. So you can tell him, all right, this is what I can afford. If you're going to get angry, you please get angry. What can I do? This is all I can afford. Take it. And if that priest gets angry, that's why I said, if that priest gets angry, for example, and he curses you, let's say, quote unquote, curses you, that is not going to affect you. Why? Because he is caught in his own, I wanted this, I and mine principle. So he has already shut the door. So now he is creating his poison for himself or herself. So please don't worry about touch. Having said all of that, here was a simple solution that Baba gave all of us in the ashram. Don't touch others unnecessarily. Why touch? This is not the concept of the Indian subcontinent ancient time. It was never the practice of touching at all. It was always namaste, namaskar. Only your near and dear ones, again, according to age limit, they would put their arms around, give a hug and all of that. Never strangers, never, 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 never. Now you might consider this old fashioned or this is ridiculous. Nowadays, it's all just, we have to move with times and all that. You can do all that. You can't change the basic instincts in people. So the best way is what? Just say Namaste, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Sai Ram, and move on and express all your love and affection through your eyes, through your feelings, through your spiritual energy. That connects you even more than the necessity to touch somebody. I honestly believe in this. I could be completely wrong, but I truly believe that we don't have to touch anyone. And just like sound, if I am very conscious and mindful about touching, then touch becomes a powerful energy in me. Just like sound, when I don't speak unnecessarily, speak falsehood, speak sounds which are negative, create chaos in my consciousness, then mantras don't have effect. Why? Because I've created so much other chaos in my consciousness with other sounds coming in through my ears, going out from my mouth. Mantras will become less effective. Same thing with touch. So if I can be mindful of what I touch, whom I touch, how I touch, who's touching me, if I become mindful, not rude with people, but be mindful and be very polite and discreet about these things. If we can do that, then touch, we will begin to absorb touch and utilize touch as a powerful energy in our spiritual practice. Baba was very particular, very mindful of who he would allow to touch and who he would not, when we should touch him and when we should not. Just because we had a chance, we just couldn't. He would come out for darshan, he knew that was a time we could touch him as he passed by. But there were times he would just be completely aloof. He will not allow people to touch him. Why? Don't ask me, I don't know. But he was very particular. So I began to appreciate the sense of touch. It is so important. So there are healers who practice healing practices like pranic healing, Reiki, and all of that with the sense of touch. So if their lifestyle, they're very mindful about their touch, then their touch carries a lot of energy. And that could cause healing. It all depends on the healer, their life practices, who they are, and so on and so forth. So thank you for asking that question. And with that, I think, oh, great. And with that, we have come to the end of the Q&A, and also we are 5 minutes beyond time. So thank you for your patience. I hope this class was useful. Once in a while, I'll take up Q&A and catch up on some questions that had to be answered. So thank you for joining. As always, let's end this class with one Om and three Shansis.